At Chiristmas dinner, my husband's family gave gifts to everyone except me. His mother smiled and said, "Oh dear, we forgot you existed." My husband laughed along with them. I smiled back and said, "It's okay. I didn't forget me." Their smiles faded fast when they opened my gift and realized what it really meant. At Christmas dinner, my husband's family gave gifts to everyone. Everyone except me. My mother-in-law, Jennifer, held her new diamond necklace and she smiled at me. It was a smile like a crack in thin ice. "Oh dear," she said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "We forgot you existed." The silence was heavy, broken only by a small, sharp sound. The sound of my husband Brandon laughing. He actually laughed. I looked at him, the man I had sacrificed everything for, and I smiled back. "It's okay," I said. "I didn't forget me." I stood up. "Actually, I have a gift for all of you too." Their smiles faded fast when they opened my gift and finally realized what it really meant. Have you ever been made to feel invisible by the people who should love you most? Share your story in the comments below. I see you, that laughter, Brandon's laughter. It was the sound of an ending. But the beginning of this story started 6 years ago, the day I married him. I tried so hard to earn my place. I really did. For 6 years, I was the one who organized every holiday. I remembered every birthday. I was the one who quietly cleared the dishes while they all laughed in the living room. I was the reliable one, the quiet one, the one who never caused a problem, the invisible one. But the real moment, the moment the trap was set, was 2 years ago. Brandon came to me, his eyes wide with a panic I'd never seen before. He was crying, real tears, not the crocodile tears he usually used on his mother. "They're going to lose the house, Emily," he whispered. "They're going to lose everything." His parents, Jennifer and David, had spent their entire lives living beyond their means, building an empire of appearances. Now the bills had come due. The bank was foreclosing. The debt on the house was $450,000. He said the shame would kill his father. He said his mother wouldn't survive the humiliation. He held my hands, his grip cold and desperate. "You're the only one who can fix this, Em. You're a financial analyst. You know numbers. Please." He was right. I knew numbers. But what I saw wasn't a balance sheet. It was a chance. A twisted, desperate chance to finally be needed. To go from the outsider to the savior. To finally buy the love I was so tired of chasing. So I agreed. "It has to be our secret," he'd said. "Their pride. You know how they are." Oh, I knew. So I started the plan. I became a ghost in my own life. As a financial analyst, I mapped it all out. I cut every personal expense. I stopped buying new clothes. I packed my lunch every single day. I took on extra freelance projects at night, all while my salary was automatically funneled into their debt. $5,000 a month. Every month for 2 years. And they never noticed. Or rather, they noticed the effect. They noticed that the foreclosure notices stopped. They just assumed David had handled it. And with that $5,000 a month freed up from their own budget, they started spending. I'd log off a 12-hour shift, my eyes burning from staring at spreadsheets, only to see Victoria, the golden child sister, posting a new designer bag on Instagram, tagging her mom. Jennifer bragging about her spa weekend with the girls. David showing off his new golf clubs. All of it funded by my sacrifice? All of it funded by the money I was eating instant noodles to save? And Brandon. He was right there with them, smiling in the photos, toasting their good fortune, living the life I was paying for. He never once asked me how I was managing. He never once looked at my worn-out shoes and wondered why I never bought new ones. I was their invisible investor, the silent partner paying for the very lifestyle that was designed to keep me out. And for 2 years, I kept paying. I kept sacrificing. I kept hoping that one day they would finally see me. And then, that Christmas, they did. It was freezing in the dining room. Not literally, of course. My father-in-law, David, always kept the thermostat cranked up to a sweltering 75. But it was the kind of cold that sinks into your bones. The cold that comes from perfectly polished silver stiff damask napkins and a 10-foot Christmas tree decorated in sterile white and silver. It was a magazine layout, not a home. A place where joy came to be photographed, not felt. We had just finished the meal that I had spent all day helping prepare a fact that went entirely unmentioned. Now we were in the living room for the main event. The performance. The exchanging of the gifts. This was their favorite part. David started presenting Jennifer with a small dark blue velvet box. She opened it and a diamond necklace glittered under the chandelier. Her gasp was perfectly rehearsed. "Oh, David, it's exquisite." Victoria, my sister-in-law, unwrapped a gift certificate for a ski trip to Aspen. "Daddy, you shouldn't have," she squealed, even though she had been demanding it since August. Then it was Brandon's turn. Jennifer gave him a heavy platinum designer watch. He fastened it on his wrist, admiring the way it caught the light. "It's perfect, Mom. Exactly the one I wanted." He looked over at me holding a small box. For one stupid fluttering second, I thought it was for me. But he turned and handed it to Victoria. "Just a little something extra, sis. Saw this and thought of you." It went on like this for an hour. Gifts were opened, expensive fabrics were praised, thank yous were gushed. I sat on the ottoman just slightly outside the main circle, smiling until my face ached. I watched the pile of discarded gold-embossed wrapping paper grow, and I felt that familiar cold emptiness creeping into my chest. Finally, the floor was clean. Everyone was admiring their new possessions. And I was sitting there, my hands folded in my lap. Empty. The silence was heavy. A terrible, heavy, awful silence. Victoria was the first to notice. She looked at me then at the empty space under the tree where a gift for me should have been. Then she looked at her mother, a small, sharp smirk playing on her lips. Jennifer's eyes landed on me. She put on a mask of dramatic theatrical surprise. "Oh, Emily," she said, her voice dripping with fake pity. She brought a perfectly manicured hand to her chest. "My goodness, with all the excitement for Victoria and Brandon, it seems we." "Well?" She looked at David, who just shrugged, completely indifferent. She looked back at me, and her smile was a weapon. "Oh dear," she said, her voice loud in the quiet room. "We forgot you existed." I felt the blood drain from my face. It was one thing to be ignored. It was another to be erased, to be declared non-existent. I could feel Victoria's eyes on me, drinking in my humiliation. I could feel David's dismissive gaze. But I didn't look at them. I looked at Brandon. I looked at my husband, the man whose family I had just saved from financial ruin. The man I was at that very second still actively sacrificing my life for. I looked at him waiting, begging him with my eyes to say something, to defend me, to end this. He looked at me. He looked at his mother. And then he laughed. It wasn't a big laugh. It was a small, sharp bark, a nervous chuckle that instantly sided with them, not with me. "Wow, Mom," he said, his smile weak, apologetic, to her. "That's terrible." But he didn't stop smiling. He turned to me the brand new expensive watch that my sacrifice had paid for glinting on his wrist. "Don't worry, Em. It's fine. You can. You can use my new espresso machine if you want." And that was it. That was the sound. The sound of the last chain breaking. The sound of my love, my hope, my stupid endless well of second chances finally drying up and turning to dust. It wasn't the insult from Jennifer that broke me. It was the laughter from my husband. I looked down at my empty hands, and then I looked up at Jennifer. I smiled. A real smile this time. A calm, quiet, terrifyingly peaceful smile. "It's okay," I said, my voice perfectly even. "I didn't forget me." I stood up. The room went silent. "Actually," I said, "I have a gift for all of you, too. A group gift, you might say." The laughter in the room stopped. Brandon's smile froze. Jennifer's eyes narrowed, sensing the shift, and I saw the first flicker of fear. "What are you talking about, Emily?" My father-in-law David asked, his voice annoyed. "Just a little something," I said. I walked over to my purse, the one I'd bought from a thrift store 3 years ago. I reached inside and pulled out a single, beautiful, red velvet box. "I was going to save this for last," I said, placing it on the coffee table right in front of Jennifer, "but now seems like the perfect time." Their smiles faded. Their perfect curated Christmas, the one I wasn't invited to, was about to end. And I was the one holding the match. Jennifer was the first to reach for the red velvet box. Her earlier arrogance was gone, replaced by a cautious, greedy curiosity. She probably thought it was jewelry, something expensive to apologize for her little slip-up. She opened the lid. Her smile froze. Inside, there was no velvet cushion. There was just a single folded piece of paper. "What is this?" she snapped, her voice no longer sweet. She thought I was mocking her. David, my father-in-law, snatched the paper from the box. He unfolded it. His face, usually ruddy with expensive wine, went pale. He read it once, then twice. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with a confusion so deep it was almost comical. "Emily, what is this?" I kept my voice calm, almost gentle. "It's the paid in full notification for this house, the $450,000 mortgage." I let the words hang in the air. I watched my sister-in-law Victoria stop scrolling on her phone. I watched Brandon's head snap up. "The final payment cleared last Tuesday," I continued. "I just wanted to wait until Christmas to tell you. It's all done. The house is officially yours. Merry Christmas." The silence in that room was absolute. It was so quiet I could hear the tiny fizz of the champagne bubbles in Jennifer's glass. She was staring at the paper, speechless. David was looking at Brandon, then at me, then back at the paper. His mind, so quick to calculate his golf handicap, couldn't process this reality. Brandon. He just looked lost. "Em, you did this. How?" "I'm a financial analyst, Brandon," I said softly. "It's what I do. I just rerouted some funds." And right before he could form his next question, I reached into my purse again. I pulled out a simple white business envelope. I slid it across the polished mahogany table. It stopped right in front of his new platinum watch. "And this," I said, "is my gift for you, Brandon." He looked at me, then at the envelope. He picked it up. His hands were shaking. He tore it open. He pulled out the papers inside. It wasn't a notification. It wasn't a receipt. It was divorce papers, already signed. My signature was clear and firm at the bottom. "I've paid off your family's debt," I said, my voice as clear and cold as the winter air outside. "And now I'm paying for my freedom." I know what you're thinking. The same thing they were probably thinking in that moment of stunned silence. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you secretly pay $450,000 for a family that treated you like dirt? Was it stupidity? Was I a fool? For a long time, I thought I was, but I've learned. I've learned that what they did to me, what he did to me, it builds a prison in your mind. It's a cage with no bars, an invisible chain. Psychologists call it learned helplessness, a trauma bond. It's what happens when someone breaks you down piece by piece until you believe you are as worthless as they say you are. You start to believe that the only way to get even a scrap of love is to earn it. To buy it? I wasn't paying a mortgage. I was trying to buy a family. I was trying to buy my husband's love. I thought if I could just do enough, give enough sacrifice, enough that one day they would finally see me, that I could go from being the outsider to the savior. I was a survivor desperately trying to pay a ransom for a hostage that was already gone. But tonight, that laugh wasn't an insult. It was a key. It was the sound that finally shattered the invisible chain. I looked at their faces. Shock, confusion, rage, all of it. For the first time, I felt nothing. I stood up from the table, picked up my thrift store purse, and walked to the front door. I was done. I didn't run. I walked. I remember the glass door shutting behind me with a heavy final click. The cold night air hit my face, and for the first time in 6 years I could actually breathe. It wasn't just the air. It was the silence. The absence of their judgment, their expectations, their casual cruelty. The quiet lasted for exactly 90 seconds. That's how long it took me to get to my car and turn the key. My phone didn't just buzz. It exploded. It was a digital scream. I didn't look at the screen. I just drove. I drove past the manicured lawns and the oversized houses, and I didn't stop until I reached a part of the city they never visited. I parked in front of a small, clean, one-bedroom apartment building, the one I had secretly leased last month, the one Brandon knew nothing about. When I finally walked inside and locked the door, a door only I had the key to, I finally looked at the screen. 14 missed calls. 32 text messages. They were all there, a perfect chorus of panic. Brandon was first. His voicemails were a masterclass in desperation, cycling through all the stages of grief. First panic, Emily. Where are you? Stop this. Okay? This isn't funny. You're scaring me. Just come back and we'll talk. Then anger. You can't just do this. You can't drop a bomb like that and just walk out. You're my wife, Emily. You owe me an explanation. Then came the texts. Victoria, the golden child sister. I don't know what kind of stunt you just pulled, but Mom is hysterical and you've completely ruined Christmas. You're a monster, Emily. You're just jealous of us. And finally, Jennifer. Her text was short, cold, and perfect. You will regret this. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. You have no idea what you've just done. I silenced the phone, but I didn't block them. Oh no. I wanted to listen. I wanted to hear the sound of their gilded cage rattling. I poured myself a glass of tap water from my new empty kitchen, my hands perfectly steady, and I just listened to their panic. It was the first honest communication we'd ever had. Another voicemail from Brandon came through. This one was different, pleading. M, please, think about what you're doing. Our marriage, our vows, doesn't that mean anything to you? I listened to his voice, choked with an emotion he was performing, and I felt nothing. He wanted to talk about vows. He wanted to talk about commitment. That's the thing they don't tell you about betrayal. It's not a single act. It's not a storm that passes. It's a sickness. It's a slow-growing mold that gets into the walls. And for 6 years, I had been trying to live with it, hoping I could just clean the surfaces and pretend the rot wasn't there. But that laugh, his laugh, that wasn't just a crack in the foundation. It was the proof that the commitment was already dead. It had been dead for years. He was the sickness. What I did tonight, handing him those papers, that wasn't failure. That was surgery. It was the necessary, painful, and life-saving act of cutting out the disease so I could finally heal. You don't apologize for surviving. You don't feel guilty for walking away from the thing that was trying to kill your soul. You just walk, and you don't look back. I turned the sound back on. I wanted to hear every single buzz, every panicked text, every desperate, unraveling voicemail. It was the soundtrack of my new life. I didn't see them again. There was no dramatic, tearful confrontation. There was no final movie script showdown. After that night, there was just silence. The panicked calls stopped, the angry texts tapered off, and they were gone. But their story wasn't. See, the thing I never understood until I was free, was that the $5,000 a month I was paying wasn't just debt. It was their lifestyle. It was their power. It was the fuel for their arrogance. Without my secret income paying for the roof over their heads, they suddenly had to pay for it themselves. And it turned out their high-flying lifestyle didn't leave much room for things like property taxes, utilities, or upkeep on a massive aging house. The spa weekends stopped. The new cars disappeared. Victoria, I heard, had to get a real job. Brandon, faced with the reality of his own salary, couldn't prop them up. The house I had gifted them their symbol of status. It became their beautiful gilded prison, a home they owned but couldn't afford to live in. And me, I took that $5,000 a month and I invested it in myself. I left my old job and started my own financial consultancy, specializing in helping women escape relationships defined by financial abuse. I'm standing on a stage right now at a women's conference, looking out at a sea of faces that all look a little bit like my own. And I tell them the truth. I tell them about the power illusion of the empty wallet. I tell them that my in-laws' power, their confidence, their social status, their contempt, it was all an act. It was an illusion, a costume rented with my money. They confused having with being. They had a big house. They had designer clothes. They had country club memberships. But they were nothing. They were hollow. They were empty characters living inside an empty wallet mine. The moment I stopped paying, the moment I handed them that final receipt, their power vanished. Because it was never theirs. It was mine. The gift wasn't the house. The gift was the mirror I held up to them, forcing them to finally see themselves for what they were empty. I, on the other hand, had nothing. I was the invisible one, the outsider, the one who didn't exist, but I was something. I was a survivor. I was a provider. I was the one holding it all together. And I finally realized that being something will always be more powerful than having something. I didn't just walk away from them. I walked away with everything. I took my power, my future, and my name, and I left them exactly what they had always truly been. Nothing